Commissioner Howard. Now we'll move to the side.
Is this working? Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Dexter Rapley. I work for an organization called Public Counsel in Los Angeles, and we represent students who have been victimized by for-profit colleges, among other types of clients. I'm going to try to keep this short and focus on and try to clarify more broadly the Bureau's responsibilities with respect to consumer protection in relation to those of other agencies. Now, I think it's important to keep in mind, from our perspective, this issue is sort of shaped by the fact that due to the proliferation of arbitration clauses and class action waivers in all contracts with colleges that students sign and with lenders and everybody else, the power of them to enforce what legal rights they have is it's limited to what agencies are going to enforce on their behalf, mostly. And so a lot of agencies in different levels of government around the country have gotten more and more involved because of this. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the Federal Trade Commission, and the attorneys general of many states are the most prominent, I think, in this regard. But I think something that has been referred to today is that the Bureau could be part of that team, or could be doing some of the same types of things that those other agencies are doing. And I think that they could be positioned to do it better and more effectively and sooner. And, you know, acting sooner is something that we've been talking a lot about today, or that you guys have been talking a lot about today. So I just want to mention a couple things about the Bureau's specific responsibilities. The Private Post-Secondary Education Act of 2009 provides that the Bureau shall conduct an investigation whenever it has reason to believe that an institution may be out of compliance. And an institution is out of compliance if it has misled students about material information such as job placement rates or the likely employment opportunities that graduates are going to encounter. Now that's the number one issue that most of these large enforcement actions have revolved around, is lying to students about those central facts. For example, the Federal Trade Commission's lawsuit last week or last month against DeVry found that they were advertising, the centerpiece of their massive television advertisement campaign was that they placed 90% of graduates in jobs in their field. Now that was a lie, according to the FTC. And you know, that's the central issue that at least our clients are most impacted by. And so just want to emphasize that is within the Bureau's responsibility and power. And so, you know, we are not aware of any large-scale investigations that the Bureau has undertaken focused on these central consumer protection issues. There may have been some, but I am not aware of any. So I'd like to propose finally that when other agencies launch investigations based on these types of outright allegations of schools making misrepresentations to large amounts of students, that should constitute reason to believe that an institution may be out of compliance. And the Bureau has a wide array of intermediate steps it can take before withdrawing approval to operate. It can impose fines or place institutions on probation. So that could be, you know, the first step, but that also is also often going to be too little too late. So finally, the fact that the Bureau works so closely with institutions, receives complaints directly from students, and does regular mandatory compliance inspections should put it in a better position than those other agencies to have the facts on the ground and take those first steps even before it becomes too late. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And if I could ask the rest of the speakers to be as concise as possible, please. It is getting a little later.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Angela Perry. I work with a civil rights law firm named Public Advocates in San Francisco. As Ms. Smith stated earlier, the Bureau's first and foremost duty is to protect the public and ensure that students are protected from fraud and abuse at the hands of educational businesses. With that directive in mind, I'd like to propose several steps I hope the legislature will take during the sunset review process to ensure that student protection is indeed the first and foremost priority at the Bureau. First, I suggest that the Bureau make student complaints a priority. Despite the legislative mandate to protect the public above all else, the Bureau has consistently failed to make student complaints a top priority. In its Sunset Review report, the Bureau presents data illustrating that the backlog of complaints has steadily increased over the last 3 years. These are student complaints. And the Bureau is also taking 2 times longer to close investigations today than it did 3 years ago. In contrast, as Chief Wenzel indicated, the Bureau has nearly eliminated the backlog for school approvals, reducing the backlog from over 1,000 in 2010 to nearly 100 today. It's a reduction of over 900. In order for the Bureau to protect the public, student complaints must be the top priority over other activities, including application licensing. The Bureau needs to have the staff and capacity to review these complaints and to take action to initiate investigations when necessary. Second, I suggest that we fund assistance for students in particular need, which I know has been discussed. While the Bureau has made improvements in how it reaches out to students at closed schools, it's very limited staff to handle student claims for relief, only 2 STRIF advocates at the Bureau. Students desperately need the legislature to ensure that students at closed schools have access to the assistance they need to file for the relief that they are legally due. Third, I would suggest we expand authority over online schools, another topic that's been discussed. The Private Post-Secondary Act should be amended to cover online distance education providers that enroll California students, because there currently exists a legislative loophole that allows these schools to enroll California citizens with no protection under California law. Fourth, create firm deadlines for the Bureau. Unfortunately, delays in drafting and approving regulations have prevented many students from being able to access the Student Tuition Recovery Fund, and it's allowed a number of student complaints to swell with no procedures in place for managing that backlog. Of the 6 regulatory packages the Bureau has had on its plate over the last 3 years, it's only completed 2, and several of those are over deadline. We encourage the legislature to both create deadlines and to enforce those when the Bureau misses its deadlines. Fifth, and lastly, I promise, increase student representation within the Bureau. We discussed earlier the Bureau's High Technology Task Force, which was originally designed to represent the interests of students, employers, advocates, and the industry. But in the end, the membership was overwhelmingly representative of the industry, and the subsequent report focused primarily on recommendations to ease licensure processes for for-profit schools, rather than on protections for the students enrolling in those schools. This represents a lack of focus of the Bureau's ultimate directive, which is to protect the public. In the same vein, the advisory committee is designed to be a diverse and well-rounded set of voices to advise the Bureau, but it cannot be so if seats go vacant for years, if members do not show up to meetings, or if the Bureau disregards majority votes. The Bureau has yet to fill one of the critical employer member seats on the advisory committee. One student member has never attended a single meeting and was also employed by a for-profit previously. And one institutional representative only attended 1 meeting during 2015 entirely. We therefore suggest that the legislature also explore other options to ensure that the Bureau prioritizes students and public accountability, including the creation of a senior staff position within the Bureau to oversee the focus on student needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, my name is Megumi Tsutsui. I'm an attorney with HERA, Housing and Economic Rights Advocates, and we've been providing legal services to students for a number of issues, including this closed school issue. We've already heard about the thousands of students impacted by Corinthian schools, by the closure of Marinello Beauty schools, and by the potential impending closures of other large schools. Many of these students paid money not otherwise reimbursable, including taking out unfair and abusive private loans and paying for fraudulent high school diploma programs. These students have a right to relief under the STRIF statute, but this relief has been a right in paper only. I've reached out to the Bureau to try to find out exactly how many STRIF claims they have received since the unprecedented school closures. I haven't received the numbers yet, but here's what we know. As was mentioned by Assemblymember Irwin, the STRIF fund is capped at $25 million, and at the end of last year, the fund was at $28 million, about $3 million over its cap. In the Bureau's recent STRIF report, they cited having only 344 claims under review at the close of last year, Ms. Smith suggested that only 300 of the potentially 10,000 eligible Corinthian students have applied to STRIF. These numbers suggest that the eligible students are not applying for STRIF relief. When Corinthian schools closed, Bay Area Legal Aid, East Bay Community Law Center, and HERA organized a number of workshops for students of closed schools, and hardly anyone had heard about the Bureau or knew about STRIF. With the more recent Marinello school closures, the Bureau seems to have greatly improved its response. But weeks later, I'm still getting calls from students eligible for STRIF who haven't heard of STRIF. It was suggested that that students are applying to STRIF because they're transferring, but that just hasn't been what we've been hearing from students. Students have been telling us that they haven't been applying because they haven't heard about STRIF, or they have trouble filling out the application. For these reasons, in addition to supporting Ms. Robin Smith's recommendations on STRIF, I'd like to emphasize two recommendations. First, the Bureau should be supported to be more proactive and do more outreach. It's imperative that the Bureau do more outreach beyond simply showing up at a school one time before it closes. It needs to be conducting ongoing outreach to students and be more proactive in identifying those students who would benefit from STRIF. This is the most important recommendation because it is the only way that the words in the STRIF statute will come to actually benefit students. STRIF will only help students if students know about this right and are supported in actively pursuing this right. Second, the Bureau should do what it can to extend relief to deserving students. The Bureau has the authority to extend STRIF relief to harmed students by making a determination that the quality or value of a program deteriorated before a school closed. I'm not aware of any instance where the Bureau has done this. As was raised by Assemblymember Medina, the Department of Education extended its closed school relief for Corinthian students going back to June 20th, 2014. This is 10 months before the schools closed. The Bureau should follow this example and give more students harmed by Corinthian and other schools closed an opportunity to get relief for the harm that they suffered. The Bureau has also, as a matter of internal policy, decided that any student who received a diploma is not eligible for relief because the Bureau has predetermined that the student has not suffered economic harm. That's just not true in a lot of cases. Many students who graduated in the final months of Corinthian's existence have told us that their final days were chaotic, that teachers and staff were laid off, and that they have found their degrees to be absolutely worthless. In this unprecedented moment of students harmed by closed schools, the Bureau should be using its authority to try to help more students rather than narrowing relief for students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Richard Springer. I work for the Bureau. The Bureau has known about issues with school closures. A couple years ago at the last Sunset Committee, a gentleman by the name of Lloyd tried to bring up the concerns, only for it to fall on deaf ears. I have recently brought concerns to Joanne in regards to management and how things are done when we're out there and on inspections, only for it to fall on deaf ears and for her to tell me, just talk to other managers and elevate it. So here I am today. For example, violating our own laws, the law of 94929.5 in regards to school performance fact sheets. Each institution shall submit a school performance fact sheet. Recently, a continuing education school for medical professionals and fire, where they have to have licenses in order to practice and be employed, was informed that no, you don't have to do it, even though you've been doing it since 2010 or whenever they were. So once again, we're contradicting ourselves, with the school. So what might be good for one school that I go to cite them on, it won't be good for the next one. Fines have been issued, citations have been issued. Everybody has a right to appeal, but when a fine goes from $5,000 and they do a reduction to 98% down to $250, you might want to start looking into the accounting right there. I mean, you hiring an outside firm? Well, let's start with the checks and balances, because the, $250 fine that an institution has to pay, that doesn't pay for an inspector to go down to San Diego, LA, or wherever it is. The cost of the taxpayers on the traveling and the hotel, the rent-a-car, whatever the case may be. So, I mean, there's a lot of wasteful spending going on there, and there's a lot of issues internally, dysfunction. And here I stand before you, knowing I'll probably get, retaliatory claims against me, but you know what? That's the risk that I take, with the fact that, what they're doing is wrong. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Christy Johnson, and I'm a licensed vocational nurse with the state of California. I graduated from Gurnick Academy of Medical Arts in August of 2015, and I am currently enrolled in Unitech College in Fremont for my LVN to RN bridge. I can appreciate everybody's standpoint here today. What I'd like to be is the voice for how so many of these programs work to students' benefits. I passed the NCLEX on the first try. I had a job within the first 2 months, and again, I'm bridging to a program. I also, during my time at Gurnick, I was employed through work-study program, and I worked as the assistant to the director of the financial aid there. I knew about the BP PE from the first day. I knew about STRIFE funds and the reallocation of those funds from the first day as a student, and I watched in my curriculum there, as I worked with the director of financial aid, that students are informed. There are schools that are doing it the right way, and the BP PE is getting out to the schools in the right way, and I think in the end, the education falls on the student, and it is what you make of it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your testimony. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Christina Williams, and I too am a licensed vocational nurse. I'm also a graduate of Gurnick Medical Academy of Arts. I would like to speak on the behalf of the school. It was definitely a wonderful experience. I'm a single mother of 2 beautiful children. As a single mom, it is extremely hard to have to balance 1 to 2, maybe even 3 jobs just to support your family. I am so grateful for the opportunity that I had as a student of Gurnick. They provided me with the tools and materials that I needed to be a successful nurse once completing their program. I graduated May 2015. By August of 2015, I am now a licensed vocational nurse working for the Department of Veterans Affairs of Martinez, California, so that I can provide exceptional quality care to our vets that have fought in previous wars and current wars. And I'm grateful to be a nurse to take care of those have taken care of us. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and thanks for your testimony. Appreciate it. Congratulations.
Hello.
Good evening.
My name is Gabrielle Jimenez, and I too am a licensed vocational nurse, and I graduated from Gurnick Academy of Medical Arts. This program has done more for me than I can even begin to tell you. For me, starting and going back to school later in life opened up some obstacles that I struggled, and it was hard, but it was worth every moment of it. This program offered me things that the other more traditional programs couldn't. I'm in support of the private post-secondary education because of what it offered to me. Gurnick was phenomenal in their education, their support, and their encouragement of me. I love to be able to say that I'm a nurse. It's something I never thought possible, and it has provided something in me that is so more fulfilling than anything I thought possible. This program needs to stay in place. It's valuable, and it makes a difference in all lives, especially those deciding to go back to school at a later age. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Robert Johnson, California Association of Private Post-Secondary Schools. I would like to thank you today for taking the time to listen to our students come in and talk. Buried in the 2,000 pages that you'll find in the Sunset Review Report is a series of questions that the Bureau of Compliance people ask when they go to each school. They ask students inside of each school a series of questions. The answers are there for you to look at, but I will just highlight 2. The first one is basically, are you happy with your progress in this school? 95% of all students that are signing up these questionnaires answer yes. And the other question asks, would you refer the school to your friends? That answer came in the 90s. So Although we've heard today a large amount of testimony based targeted at certain large institutions, the majority of schools in this state are small. They're small businesses. They're under 500 students, 1 or 2 campuses. They do the best they can with a very challenging amount of regulations and statutes in both federal, state, and accreditor. I think they do, by and large, a great job. So I hope that message doesn't get lost in the grievances that you keep hearing today. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts. Appreciate it. Anyone else care to contribute to this hearing today? Hearing and seeing no one. Chair Medina, would you like some final thoughts?
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you very much, Senator Hill, for chairing our hearing here today. And I think all the testimony that we heard was indeed valuable. The collapse of Corinthian and more recently Maranello, as we have heard here today, highlights the importance of proper oversight of this sector, both to protect students and to protect taxpayer dollars. Approval from the Bureau provides a pathway for schools to access billions of dollars in federal financial aid. When institutions fail and file for bankruptcy, it is often the public that is on the hook for these funds. The Bureau's oversight must be meaningful. Based on today's testimony, I believe some changes to the law are necessary to better protect students. Ultimately, though, the Bureau is responsible for using its enforcement power effectively. I hope that the legislature and the administration will partner towards these goals. I want to thank our witnesses and to my co-chairs, and I look forward to working together on the Bureau's Reauthorization Act.
Great, thank you, Chair Medina, and thank you all for being here today. I think we've learned a lot. We've seen, I think, some changes and improvement in the Bureau over the last couple of years, and they're moving in the right direction. I think also that we have a very broad responsibility to protect those students from the challenges that they've faced in some of the schools and some of the institutions that they've been part of, and some of the failures that they've had to be part of. And the goal, I believe, of the Bureau should be, and I believe that they're working towards it, is to catch those challenges and problems early and promptly, and to protect those consumers by either closing those schools or at least warning those students and putting them on notice to make that decision whether they want to continue with their education there or not. And so I think we'll be moving forward and certainly watching carefully with some suggestions and recommendations that we have for Sunset Review. And Chair Salas, would you like some final words before we, would you like to make some comments? All right, very good. So thank you all, and to our chairs, Chair Medina, Chair Salas, and Chair Liu, I appreciate the opportunity this afternoon. Thank you. The hearing's adjourned.